So the idea with Blender is to build up a ton of pre-speed as Anderson is going through his monologue to get through the door with as much speed as possible. And the way we do that is by using the room itself as a runway of sorts. Compared to the easier strat of just standing at the door and frag boosting through it, this is by default not a huge amount faster, but the ceiling is a lot higher. So the better your wall kicks are with this strat, the more time you're going to be saving. So here's how to do it. So the place where we set up is between these two pillars, looking this way. And the route breakdown itself is that we do a C-feb off this, crouch kick off this without double jumping first. We do a double jump to get to this wall, crouch kick off of it, and immediately do a tap strafe to the left to get under this area here. That will put us into landing around here, and on this slide hop we pull a nade. We do another slide hop land around in this area, and then we double jump to this wall and do another crouch kick tap strafe to the left. And that will put us into this sort of line where we want to drop the we throw the frag straight down around this area, because that's where basically where the ticks are going to be running under you. That will give us a ton of speed going through this hallway, which is this is not part of the route, but I very, very highly recommend as you're making this turn to not just do a no lurch double jump into a tap strafe to the right, but do a diagonal double jump into a tap strafe, because diagonal double jumps are actually like uncannily good at making sharp turns and also keeping your speed at the same time. It's kind of scary actually. So from the point that you activate Anderson, you actually have a ridiculous amount of time to do whatever you want, which means there's probably a strat that is way faster by just, you know, using more of the room and starting earlier. But the setup that we have goes from the second to last line, which is this one. Doesn't look like they've perfected the casing. That's your cue that the next line is the one that you want to be going on. So I recommend having subtitles on for this so that you don't necessarily need to be listening very closely. You can just look and be like, oh my god, the next line I need to go. There are two options for how to actually use the cue for when to go. You can react to Anderson saying the voice line, or you can react to the subtitle popping up. Either one works. Reacting to the subtitle is a little bit safer because it happens a bit later, happens like half a second later-ish. So you have a bit more time, and it also theoretically allows you to have more speed during the pre-speed section so that you can have more speed coming out of the door without bonking into it too early. Sort of like that. The thing I personally actually find most difficult about this is just this sequence of the first like C-feb and 2 crouch kicks, because the fact that you're not doing a double jump into this wall makes it, for me personally, very hard to judge the distance. So I had a lot of issues actually with just inputting the crouch kick too early. So if that's a thing that you struggle with, don't worry, you are not alone. I had this issue for like 17 years as well. The reason that I actually opt to not do a double jump at this first one is because for this crouch kick here, we want to actually be a little bit lower, because this ceiling it's like annoying how low it is. So you want to hit this wall like pretty low. I would say like around this panel, maybe the bottom half of this panel, just to be safe. And I would even recommend, just to get a feel for how low the ceiling really is, to like intentionally try and hit it a bit high so that you bonk it and then you realize, okay, so this is how much lower I really need to be. But yeah, for example, if we did double jump here, we would immediately just be way too high. So there's an example of me hitting the thing. I definitely could have tap strafed a little bit more to the left, but ideally you don't want to tap strafe too hard, because tap strafing obviously always loses a bit of speed. So ideally you want to hit this wall as early as possible and also as low as possible. Well, not necessarily as low as possible, because hitting it like super low could actually mess you up, but the idea is to hit it early and hit it low so that you avoid, ideally so you go directly under this arch. And ideally that would set me up so that I get around this door pretty much right as it opens. I mean, the thing is, if the door opens like half a second before you get there, it's not a huge deal. The most important thing with the strat really is to just keep the speed that you're building up, even if it's not like the optimal timing or whatever. The worst case scenario is that you bonk into the door and you lose all your speed. That's obviously what you don't want, so it's always safer to go a bit later in the queue rather than earlier. And I think that's about it, so